All right, good evening. Do we have any new attendees, people who this is their first meeting or who haven't introduced themselves before? I see a lot of old names and faces, but no new ones. So, all right. How about beginner questions? And again, remember, beginner questions are beginner questions. So nothing too tough until we get to the end of the meeting. Anybody have some beginner issues or questions that they'd like to bring up?
Um, I do.
Okay.
Um, how do I get rid of uh, background sky, basically, in Tucson site? Just, with chromatic colors, there's you know, I have a very hard time just getting that background sky black. And there's usually splotches of things. And I know there's a way you can save or you can protect the parts of the image that, and I'm not sure if that maybe you can, if the background sky can be treated separately from the actual data.
Well, Paul, back up a step. What are you doing now to manage the background?
Okay, um, now I'm saving my images in TIFF. Well, I use, first of all, dynamic background extraction. I use background neutralization, sometimes automatic background extraction. And usually, while the image is in uh, linear, the backgrounds seem to be it appears that I've gotten rid of all of it. I do that first, then I put it through SPCC and then noise exterminator, blur exterminator. Then I save it in the as a linear. Then when I go to mask stretch and take it out of linear, the image all of a sudden there's all this stuff. It's all
So,
kind of
Paul, it sounds like you're overstretching the image, that you're stretching the background so much that you're illuminating the background color.
okay.
Mouse over your background after one of those masked stretches.
Uh-huh.
You'll see a number on a scale of 0 to 1. Um, Screen transfer function is going to set the background at 0.25 because the goal is that you should be able to see everything in the picture. It's not a suitable level for stretching in almost any case. If you've got dark background sky, reasonable minds here can differ, but something like zero point 0.1 to 0.15, maybe a little bit more depending on the target. If you're above that level, you've overstretched the background, and that's going to produce a lot of color.
Oh, okay. You mean on mass stretch, if I set the target image or what if that top setting on that, uh, is that, if I set it to over like what, 0.15 or something?
Yeah,
If
target
I,
background. Target background is the first line on masked stretch. The default is 0.125, which is not bad, but I
okay.
certainly wouldn't want to raise it very much above that. Others will have other opinions.
Paul, this is Dave. I have a question. Do you use Noise Exterminator?
Uh-huh.
And do you have the latest version of Noise Exterminator installed?
Oh,
Oh,
The one that has about 8 different variables that you get to play with.
it's like the AI is 3. Because I've been using it since the beginning, and I noticed a big difference with the latest version because I'll typically deal with model type backgrounds where it gets all modelly and chunky in the background after
uh-huh.
you've stretched it. But I found with the new noise exterminator, it gets rid of all the blotchy stuff in the back.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's the big problem that I have. I mean, it seems that for me, it's been like a boxing match with the background sky.
yeah,
And trying to do it without injuring any or losing any of the actual data, trying to get rid of it.
yeah.
And that it's kind of every time, and it'll look great until I get that out of. But that top line on the mass stretch, is that what you're saying, that I should keep it under, like keep it at around 1.125 or less or whatever?
I don't use masked stretch very much, but when I
Uh-huh.
do, I don't bring it any higher than 0.125. I sometimes go down. You can always bring
Okay.
it up later
Oh, all right.
if you need to.
Yeah, and I've been using, and of course, you all know I'm a big Bill Blanchard fan. I'm the number one fan of the fan club. I've been using his scripts for a while, and he now has come out with his Pixel Math UI, and in that application, even if you're not into writing pixel math, which I avoid anything that has the word math in it, I use the scriptlets that he's developed using that with the interface. So you can go in and go into the library section of that free application script, and it has something called
Simple stretch.
simple stretch, and it defaults to 0.20. And what I found, it's really helpful on bright galaxy cores. If you're stretching a bright galaxy core, it's really
Yeah,
hard to keep the center tamed out so it doesn't go crazy.
right.
That
Uh-huh.
to me is I start with the simple stretch, and then usually if it's like a broadband image, I'll go in and do a GHS to it. There's also a thing that I do with GHS where I set it to linear mode, and then I use a little arrow on the top of the histogram and bring it to the right. If I see a lot of space between the left side of histogram and the left side, that means there's more detail to be brought out. But one of the things you want to do is bring the background down as much as you can before it starts clipping. So you'll
Yeah.
see there's a
Uh-huh.
little measuring it'll tell you whether you're clipping or not. And sometimes you have a lot of leeway and sometimes it's very fine. But if I see a lot of space between the left side of the curve and of the histogram, then I'll just go right into that linear mode and bring it down. And then I'll work on the individual parts of the image that I want to stretch.
We probably could keep going down this rabbit hole for the entire hour. Does this give you some directions, Paul?
Uh, yes,
For-
it's just where to find that last one, but I know that one I can
Yeah,
start.
I would not call that a beginner topic. I think Dave jumped up to a more
Oh, okay.
advanced level.
But I needed to get some advice on this at some point, and
Figure
the
out how high your background is when you're getting this very colorful modeling, and try the new noise exterminator
Yeah,
and watch
it's
the
huge
videos
difference.
and make sure you're doing blur exterminator in the right order in the sequence so
okay,
that
what do I do first?
let's not get into that. That's a new topic and it's not a
Okay,
beginner question.
Well,
There are
okay,
videos online. Adam Block interviewed Russ Croman
yeah,
and he explains how to use those tools. Just Google Croman and Block and you'll
yeah.
find the video.
But the answer is blur exterminator before you do a stretch, before you do a permanent stretch. You
oh
can
yeah, I did. Oh yeah, I always
yeah.
do
And
blurs.
you can use noise exterminator anytime you want. I typically just wait till I've stretched it.
Oh, okay, yeah. Well, I usually do that too.
Back to you, Greg.
All right. Well, that
Hey,
wasn't
thanks.
really a beginner question, but I hope you got some information there. If we have more time towards the end of the meeting, we can certainly go back and revisit that.
Well, I won't be able. I won't. I've got a. I've got something else to do after 7:30. So
All right. Any other beginner questions? Okay. Well, our main endeavor tonight is to look at the results of our Monsoon Challenge 2025. And again, the challenge this year was to image something in the constellation of Ophiuchus and then present it. So I've got some names of folks who said they have images. I'll just kind of go down my list here when I call on you. Share your screen and explain to us how you acquired the image and what you did to process it. Try to keep it at about 5 minutes or so we can get everybody in. First on my list is Tom Eby. Tom, are you on with us? I thought I saw you there.
Yeah, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I think you said you had a couple of images to share.
Yeah. I'm looking on my desktop and I'm looking for the share screen icon. Um,
It's that green one at the bottom.
ah, okay. Share. Pretty obvious. Okay. Uh, let's see. Okay. Can you see the screen all right?
Yes.
Okay. A couple of sharpless objects I did. This first one is the wider field view of sharpless 2-23 and 2-24. 23 is at the top. That the south is at the top of this image. These are in pretty far western Ophiuchus, right on the border with Scorpius. There's a little area of Scorpius that juts up into Ophiuchus. So these are molecular clouds. These are not emission nebula. They're not hydrogen alpha emission clouds. They contain basically molecular hydrogen, H2, carbon monoxide, amines, dust, other materials. So they're pretty much just reflecting by, well, are illuminated anyway by reflected light. There's very little, excuse me, very little emission here. So light pollution filters and narrowband filters really won't do you very much good with these sorts of things. There's quite a bit of nebulosity in the background too. These are very faint, um, as the slide indicates, this is with a fast optic, RASA 8, f2, 2600 MC Pro camera. 6.5 hours total integration using 1 minute subs. And let's see, this is just the crop of 224. This is the sort of brighter,
Tom, the
uh,
image didn't move.
pardon?
The image did not move.
Oh, the image did not move. Huh. Okay. Now let's see.
You share your whole screen instead of share uh, an application.
Yeah, okay.
Put it on the whole.
Can you see that one now? Okay.
It's still the first one.
Okay. How about that? Okay. Can you see the crop?
No,
No.
I think you need to stop sharing and start sharing again.
Hmm. Weird. Okay, let's see. Application windows. Can you see anything?
We see it now.
Okay.
Now we're seeing your whole screen. Yes.
Okay. I see part of a screen. Anyway, this is the crop of 224. And I'll go to the other. I thought I could just share my PowerPoint presentation, but I guess I can't. This is another sharpless object, 270. Same thing, molecular cloud. There's a bunch of nebulosity in the region. 2-70 is actually the brighter portion off to the left. This is with a different camera, the 585 MC Pro, same telescope, RASA 8. A little different mount. This one's guided because the 900 mount needs some guiding. That's 4 hours. And this is the crop of that. And nearby there's a little spiral galaxy. I used an extreme crop to bring it out. 15.5 magnitude barred spiral, around 300 million light years out there. Ophiuchus actually has quite a few little galaxies in it. So when you get a wide field view in this area, if you zoom in and scan around your field, you can usually see a number of kind of interesting little galaxies. That's it.
Now, were these taken in the Tucson area or at CAC or somewhere else?
My backyard here.
Nice.
Very nice.
Okay.
Any questions for Tom about his images? All right, very good. Let's see. Next on my list, I have Randy Smith. Randy said he wasn't going to be here, but then he magically showed up. So, Randy, if you'd like to share your image.
Randy, you're on mute.
Okay, I think that's better. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. Here we go. This is the row Ophiuchus, um, and this was with my little FMA 180 ASCAR refractor, and this was 16 hours worth. With the 2600 MC Pro and an Optolong L Pro filter. So I've been wanting to capture. I'm having a lot of fun with this wide field refractor, mainly because the quality seems to be pretty darn good when you zoom in and you're able to go in that tight, and the stars look this pretty good. So anyway,
Got M4 resolved into stars there.
yeah, it works pretty well. So that's what I ended up doing. And let's see, I do have I reshot this. This is a 4-panel mosaic with the same equipment. But it's only 6 hours total, so about an hour and a half for each of the 4 panels. So I didn't capture as much detail and color, but I'd always wanted to shoot this as well. So that's what I got.
Any special processing tricks to the first one? It's got great contrast.
Well, I use an awful lot of masks to zero in on different areas, and I'll make a mask and then I will isolate just the part I want. If I need to go in and just, I might have 2 or 3 iterations of a mask so I can clone out what I don't want and just zero in on the parts. So my goal is always to, if I have any areas that appear to be blown out, to bring them back and then bring up as long as I can see some black, like up in here. If I see any black, then I know anything else I see is actually nebulosity. So I think over my processing life, I'm not making the dark parts near as dark as I used to, and really going to bring out all the nebulosity that I think is there. The only time I would suppress it is if I think it is just overpowering the primary object that I'm trying to get. So that's all I would say about my processing. It's just normal pix and sight, normal routine. I don't ever track what I do, so I forget from time to time. I just kind of blunder through it and do what I think I need to do on the particular image. So, any other questions?
Very good. Any questions for Randy?
Okay, I will, let's see, stop share. Okay.
All right, thank you, Randy. I next have Mike Mulcahy on my list. Is Mike with us? I didn't see his name on the participant list yet. Maybe he hasn't joined us yet. Michael? All right. We'll come back to him. David Gale. David, you have an image you'd like to share.
Okay. Um, I guess that's it. Is that it?
There you go.
Okay, as you can see, this is the cosmic bat. This is about 5 hours. I took about 6.5 hours and I culled it down to 5. It was all taken out at CAC on May 23rd and June 22nd. It's a C8 hyperstar with ASI Air, ZWO 533 MC Pro, UVIR cut filter. And this is processed in Serial Cosmic Clarity and GIMP. And since I'm still fairly new to this, I am always open to suggestions. So,
And what's the designation on this?
you know what? I can look that up. That's in my other file. I don't have that right here.
But it's the cosmic bat, right?
Yeah, the cosmic bat. I think it's an LDN object,
Okay.
I believe. But I don't have that information right. I'd have to get out of my screen and look it up. So
Okay. Very good. Any questions for David?
David, what do you do for noise reduction with those tools? Because I am seeing a bit of background noise.
yeah, there is, and I'm trying to get rid of that. I'm using the Cosmic Clarity noise eliminate loop, whatever it's called.
A SETI Astros tool.
Yes, and I do the noise reduction and the sharpening of the stars in the thing before I stretch it, because that's what he recommends. And sometimes I'll try to do it after, but it won't let me do it a second time after it's stretched.
But Dave Stern was right. You always want to do any sort of deconvolution in linear mode, and
That's
very
what I'm
early in
doing.
the process. I don't know cosmic clarity and whether it needs to be done in linear or whether it's like noise exterminator and you could do it before or after.
I think I could do it after. I haven't tried that. I've tried to do it a second time, and for some reason it doesn't like doing that. So I don't know if that's still it's Cosmic Clarity is, CD Astro Suite is still a fairly new program, and he's changed, he updates it, gosh, like every other day. So I don't know if that's something that he will allow later, but right now it doesn't allow me to do it. I might try doing the noise reduction after stretching instead of before.
Other questions? And this was done in Serial, correct?
Serial and Cosmic Clarity and a little bit of GIMP.
Okay. All right. Very good. Thank you for your contribution. Next on my list is David Stern.
Okay, go ahead and share my screen here and should be able to do this and I'll share it. And of course, can you see anything?
Your desktop.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on here. Let me go to share. Here we go. Can you see it now?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Yep.
So I didn't have a lot of time to shoot anything. I was focusing on M20 and I spent 6 nights doing that. And I figure I can come back and do this later. And then we had clouds and rain and wind, and I couldn't do anything. So last weekend, I think I had one clear night, and I figure I'll just shoot a globular cluster. And there was M4. So I shot with my C-Star S50. I shot 118 20-second subs, and I used equatorial mode. And you can even take flats with the things now. So it has a flat capability, so you can take flat frames. It has its own dark frames. So they're all calibrated subs. And then I stacked them in PixInsight, did my normal workflow processing with WPPP and everything else. And if you zoom into this, you're going to see that there's some noise there because I didn't have enough images. The thing with the C star is you have to shoot several nights on an object to get a decent signal to noise ratio. But I was pretty pleased with the way it came out. And I like to show it on Astrogen just because it's a little clearer here. You get hopefully you're seeing the same resolution that I'm seeing on my screen. But overall, I think it's a pretty decent image. It's not as good as I would get with my C8, but in a pinch, it works.
Did you do any special color processing? And this is one that looks kind of red to a lot of folks because it's down there in all that dust. And look, the star colors look really good.
Yeah, my normal workflow now is once I get through WBPP, I go into do my normal stretching. I've been using the simple stretch, and then I'll use GHS if needed. And I'm using a new a color saturation script that Bill Blanchard has developed, where he masks out the specific areas of the image that are not in the background. So let's say you had a galaxy or nebula, you can actually show the mask. It'll automatically mask out the image for you. So you don't have to set up your own specific mask unless you want to. And then you can adjust the saturation. I tried not to go overkill on it because I didn't want the stars to get oversaturated. But I just did all of that. And then I did a little tweaking in Lightroom and Photoshop, which is how I finish off an image. And I'll do a final curve stretch in Photoshop typically before I export it into a PNG file or a JPEG file.
Very good. Any questions for David on how he got this? I think it's amazing that you can take so many sharp integrations with the C-Star and produce such a fine image.
Yeah. It's all about the processing side. I think I've said this before, but to me, 20% of the hobby is the operational side where you're capturing the image. And even to a certain extent, when you're doing your batch pre-processing, that's just, going through the motions. And then it's after all of that that you get into the artistic side of it. But if you capture enough images, like maybe 2 or 3 nights, especially in EQ mode. I did find that now that I'm set up properly with the EQ mode, I could shoot all night with my battery pack. I got it set up so the cord doesn't get tangled. It's basically like a wedge. It's a pan and tilt tripod that I use. And it can go all night now. I don't have to worry about the thing tipping over. But the nice thing about the EQ mode is you could shoot longer exposures. But to me, the biggest thing is when I see the actual master light that's generated, it's like 70% cleaner than what I would get if I was shooting in Alt Z mode using the standard C-Star mode of operation.
Was this cropped at all, or is this the full image?
I did a little bit of cropping, so I got rid of some of the dead space. And when I drizzled up 2x just because it's pretty undersampled with the C-Star. So that's a lot of people will do that if they're using PixInsight. They'll bring up the drizzle by 2x.
Good point. Any questions?
Yeah, I'd like just the first thing is the fact that's a C-Star. That's amazing. The other thing is I noticed there's no light worms in your photo. And those are really hard for me to get rid of on globulars. You know what I mean by that, by light worms?
No, not exactly.
The little squiggle, as you get to the core, all the little squiggly light things.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that just it's if you zoom in here, you're gonna see. Well, let's see. This when you really magnify it,
Oh,
you
okay,
can
yeah,
see,
you do. Yeah, I can see them now.
but
But
normally you're not going to be pressing your nose against the screen, so that's
right.
like pixel peeping. But from a normal distance, it
Well,
looks good. I've gotten better with my C8.
I'm a
Okay.
pixel.
Yeah, I've gotten better results with my C8. But yeah, it's if I think if I were to shoot maybe 2 or 3 nights of the same object, I'd get better results. But globular clusters are pretty tough as they are to process. They're a challenge.
All right. Very good. But I don't see Mike McKay on our list here of participants yet, so I'm going to skip over. We had one gentleman, Sean Shiflett, who wasn't able to join us tonight, but he sent me his image to share. So I'm going to share my screen. We'll look at his, and then I have a couple to show as well. All right. Can everybody see that? This is
Yeah.
Sean's image of LDN 57, and he called it the ink spot nebula. I think that's the really dark one right in the middle. But as you can see, there's a whole bunch of other dark nebulas there, the Snake Nebula and several others. He shot this with his Red Cat 51 and ASI 183 MC Pro. And it was a guided image, and he said that he got this from a campsite someplace in New Mexico, near that site that's listed there. So that's the information that came with his image. And again, this is in Ophiuchus as well. All right. So I took a couple of images for the challenge. And the first one here is Vandenberg 109, which is a reflection nebula. This was a very faint wisp of nebulosity around a 4.9 magnitude star. It's just north of the Rho Ophiuchi complex. So it's kind of in the same category there. And as you probably are aware, the reflection nebula usually have a bluish color, as they're often around a hot young blue star. This one apparently has its more golden tones simply because of the star that seems to be powering it from behind. So very faint. I spent about 22 hours over several nights to try to come up with something that looked like other images I've seen online.
Which gear, Greg?
This is with my 10-inch astrograph and a CCD camera. It's an LRGB. You can see that I shot about 3 times as much luminance as RGB, which is the way I usually do these. Other questions? Okay, and this is the other one that I shot. This is Palomar 15, the Palomar series of globular nebula are all faint nebula surrounding the Milky Way that are really, really far away. And you probably even can't see it unless you look really close. But right at the very center, you should see a bunch of faint stars that have a little bit different color than the rest of the field. Most of the field here is reddish because it's in the dust part of Ophiuchus, but Palomar 15 is the faintest of the 15 Palomar globular clusters. And Fritz Zwicky, back in 1959, was looking for dwarf galaxies that were part of the local group. And he spotted this and concluded that it was, in fact, a dwarf galaxy. And it held the designation of Zwicky 1 for a long time until I think around 1984, when they went back to investigate and found that it's actually a very loose globular cluster, and it's the faintest of all the Palomar 15 globular clusters. So it was somewhat of a challenge to even find it and then to finally bring it out. And again, this is a LRGB with the same equipment, the 10-inch astrograph and an STL 11,000 CCD camera. Any questions on that one? All right, well, those are my two faint objects. Are there any other
Could you
folks?
put your mouse close to the object? I think I see it, but I'm not 100%
Oh,
sure.
okay, I'm sorry.
So I thought it was
Right,
unmuted.
right there.
Right, yeah, that's it. That's what I thought. Yeah.
And
Really impressive that you were able to capture that, Greg.
yeah, it's a faint one, and if you look online, that's its main claim to fame is it's very faint. I'm not sure. I think the stars are around 16th magnitude, but some of them go down to 22nd magnitude, which obviously this image doesn't capture. So, all right. Are there anybody else who's got an image who didn't tell me they had an image? If you'd like to jump in now, this is your chance to do so. It has to be something from Ophiuchus. All right. Any other comments or questions? I have a few announcements at the end, but we have, plenty of time left. If anybody has any other questions or issues that they'd like to bring up.
I have a question. If I've been looking at the video tutorials that PixInsight sent out to a 5 video sequence and they were processing the Tulip Nebula, which I have done before and I had data for and all this. And on the very first of these videos, and he was talking about using multi-gradient clearance. I forget what the C was.
MGC. Correction.
He was suddenly brought up, and he was talking about Mars, and he suddenly brought up a Mars image that showed a big chunk of the Milky Way, with the Tulip Nebula being just a very small part of that. And I have the faintest idea how he got that. Yeah, it didn't show it. He just said, and here it is. Has anybody else been able to do this, to bring up the grand vista of all the area that surrounds their image from Mars?
Well, I watched those first couple of videos as well, and I was thoroughly confused. It seemed like a bit of overkill to me to eliminate, gradients, which I think is the main gist of the Mars implementation, is to use other, gradient corrected images in order to make sure your image doesn't have any gradients. But after going through several of the videos, it seemed to me like it was an extremely complicated process to get to where they got at the very end.
Oh, it's taken a couple of years. Yeah, I have when I have tried it and my target has been within the area covered by the Mars database. I mean, it's drag and drop and it works beautifully. There's no placing dots. There's no slide bars that you need to play with like you do with the relatively more recent gradient correction. It really does an outstanding job.
How do you bring up the Mars master?
I have no idea that I haven't had a chance to look at those videos yet, and I didn't know that existed.
Well, the Mars databases, there's I think two of them now. You get that on the Pixin site website through their downloads, and then you can install that.
No, but Alan's saying you can view it as a whole, if I'm hearing you right, Alan. You're muted.
He wants to be able to.
Alan, you're muted.
You're muted.
Sorry, I was muting and unmuting, and I guess I clicked one time too many. I said, yeah, he was able to get like the master that covered the area that he was, that the tulip was in, and the tulip was just a very small part of it. And once he had the master, then he clicked and dragged his image of the tulip on there, and it showed exactly where it was supposed to be in a little rectangle. And I thought, well, that's really cool. I'd like to do that. Now, how the heck do you get that master out? I guess nobody's been able to do that. I thought maybe it was
You'll
just
have to
me.
move this to the group's IO chat and figure it out.
It seemed to me to be pretty complicated in that you had to compensate for the filters that you were using and then correct the master for those filters before you could apply the thing. And at the very end, it didn't seem like it was much better than some of the other tools that we have for removing gradients. So perhaps as they perfect it a little more, and somebody comes up with a script that makes it easier to use. Any other comments on that?
Well, I tried it and I went through all the steps and everything to use the multi-scale gradient removal and all this. And yeah, it may have been better than what I was doing previous to that, which I would take my basic image and I would run Draxpert on it, and I would run ADB on it, the SETI script, and I'd look at both of those, decide which one I liked best. Sometimes it would be Draxpert, sometimes it would be ADB, and then that would be my, and then I'd run background neutralization. And multi-scale gradient just didn't seem to be that much better that it was worth all of that work.
Yeah, I agree. I play with AB, automatic background extraction through SETI Astronomy. He's basically using a lot of the stuff that's in Pixin's site, and he's rolling it into a, kind of a macro type of thing that's doing certain things behind the scenes. But it does allow you to exclude certain things too. So you want to exclude nebulosity, you can put a square around it or whatever, or put multiple squares or rectangles and just exclude certain items so you don't screw up the nebulosity. And then Graxpert's pretty much just a drag and drop, and sometimes it'll do a better job and sometimes it won't. But I agree with you. I don't think it's worth all the hassle to use the multi-scale gradient correction.
Help me understand the hassle. There are almost no variables. You run the SPFC process beforehand, And at least I saw the videos a couple months ago when MGC was first released, and the instructions that I took away were there's basically nothing you need to do here. Just open it, get the filters right, and drag and drop it, and that's it. So what is the complexity that all of you are referring to? Gradient correction has lots of sliders and scales and things like that, and thresholds. That one can be complicated to use, but multi-scale gradient correction, MGC, I think is much simpler.
Well, my point about the complication is I have to run the photometric metric flux calibration first, and you get that done, and then you go into the multi-scale gradient, and it gives you an error because your object isn't listed on the database. So I don't
Well,
know if
that's
there's a way
a
to
separate problem, right?
figure that out. And then now I got to go back to my other methods. So, but I've actually compared the results of multi-scale gradient correction, whether it's easy to use or not. And I agree with you. It's fairly simple once you get it set up. And I don't necessarily get better results than using Graxpert or ABE.
Any other comments or questions on that? All right. Anybody else have anything else they want to discuss? All right. Well, hearing none, I did have a suggestion from one of our members to extend the monsoon challenge to really cover the whole monsoon season. So, as you're probably aware here in this particular locale, I think the monsoons run from the middle of June to the middle of September. How many folks think that would be a good idea? This would be for next year if we continue doing this. You can react by clicking the react button at the bottom of your screen there and raising your hand.
I think part of the challenge, although my stuff was done at the end of June when it was still clear, is actually getting information during the actual monsoon.
That's the challenge.
Right, and I guess I cheated because mine was on June 22nd before
That counts.
it was pretty dry. It was officially after the monsoon starts in June 15th, but
well, originally our intent was to announce it at the April meeting, so you had May and June. You could kind of beat the monsoon if you were really, dedicated to trying to do this. So, but we could certainly, extend it out longer if you think that would be a thing to do. It would certainly give you more time. Although I think that probably August is probably the worst month of all in terms of clouds, at least in the Tucson area. Of course, if you don't live in Tucson, the monsoon is probably not an issue for you. I see a couple of raised hands. Okay, so it doesn't sound like you're real hot on that. I'll keep that in mind if we decide to do this again next year.
I forgot how to raise my hand. Where is that?
I think we had people that raised the hands before and they disappeared, but I would be for.
It's the react button at the bottom.
It's the react button down there next to share.
Yeah, I'd be all for the extension.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Well, that's a few folks anyway. All right. Well, when I think about this for next year, if we decide to do this again, I'll probably poll the group. So there's quite a few people. All right. That gives me an idea. And also, in the first couple of years we ran this, we picked a couple of targets that everybody had to shoot. This year we did it a little differently. We picked a constellation and said, you get to pick the target, but it has to be from this constellation. What's your general impression of that? Is that something you're pleased with? Just shout out.
Yes.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, I think
Yes.
it's a good idea.
Mhm.
I like the idea of choosing a constellation.
All
You know,
right.
that was part of the challenge as Greg and I were putting this together because Ophiuchus is low in the sky, not necessarily the constellation you think of as one or two on your list of summer targets. So that added to the challenge.
All right. Okay, so if you haven't done so, you folks who presented your challenge images tonight, some of you have sent those to me already. If you haven't sent your image to me, please do that. Sending it to me personally. It should be less than 10 megabytes because these are all going to get put into the next month's Desert Sky Bulletin. So you'll be famous after that. So if you haven't sent me an image already, please do so. Also, if you haven't given me permission to use your image before and you want your images to appear in the bulletin, you have to specifically tell me that it's okay to do that. Our next meeting will be on August the 18th. Again, it's the third Monday of the month, and we have a interesting presentation planned for you for that meeting, and you'll be hearing more about that in the next week or so.
Oh, Greg, if I may, let me do a little plug.
Oh yeah, go ahead, Jeff.
We're going to have a special guest, Brian Valenti, who has worked at Los Mandi and now works at Astrophysics. He is a distinguished imager. He, among other things, he's got a large robotic telescope down at OBSTEC in Chile. He's a member of the Deep Sky Collective that you may have seen on Astrobin. Every picture they publish wins Image of the Day. I have encountered Brian over the years in his role as his career as providing support for companies whose mounts I have purchased, and he's an outstanding help, and he's done a lot of interesting things. So it'll be an interview. We'll send out some details. If you have questions that you would like me to pose to, there will be an opportunity for Q&A. But if you have questions in advance that come to your mind, send them to me, and I'll put them on the list.
Sounds good. All right, well, we're done right before 8 o'clock. So if there's no other items to discuss, I'm going to let everybody go. And thank you to all of you who decided to participate in the challenge. And hopefully next year we can get even more people involved, especially, I guess, if we make the challenge 3 months long. That should give you should have no excuse why you don't participate. So hopefully that'll happen. All right, thank you, everyone.
Thanks a lot, Greg.
Thanks.
Thank you.